The morning coffee had grown cold in Riley Torres's mug when the first alarm began screaming through the corridors of Earth Defense Station Sentinel. She had been reviewing supply reports, another mundane task in what everyone assumed would be another quiet day orbiting Mars. The red warning lights that suddenly bathed the command center changed everything in an instant. "Commander Torres to the bridge immediately!" The intercom crackled with urgency that made her stomach drop. Riley abandoned her paperwork and ran through the metal corridors, her boots echoing against the walls as crew members rushed past her. In both directions. Something was very wrong. The main view screen showed what looked like stars, but Riley knew better. Those weren't stars. Stars didn't move in perfect formation. Stars didn't pulse with that unnatural blue light. The sensor. Readings confirmed her worst fears. 8,000 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built, were approaching from the outer rim of the solar system. Lieutenant Brooks turned from his console, his face pale. "Commander, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. The message is in perfect English." "Put it through," Riley said, though every instinct told her she didn't want to hear what was coming. The voice that filled the bridge was cold and mechanical, translated through some alien device but carrying unmistakable menace. "Primitive species of the third planet. I am General Vorth of the Kreth Empire speaking for the Hegemony Coalition. Your world has been selected for resource extraction and strategic positioning. You have 72 hours to evacuate your planet completely. Any who remain will be eliminated as obstacles to proper development." Riley felt the blood drain from her face. This wasn't first contact. This was an extermination notice. The message continued without pause for response. "Do not attempt resistance. Your technology is insufficient. Your weapons are primitive. Your species lacks the advancement necessary for survival in the greater galaxy. This is not negotiation. This is notification." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Riley looked around at her crew, seeing her own shock and horror reflected in their faces. They had always known this day might come. Ever since first contact 30 years ago, when those alien traders had visited Earth and made it clear that humanity was considered little more than an intelligent pest species, the government had been preparing. But preparation and reality were very different things. "Get me Admiral Stone on Luna Base immediately," Riley ordered. "And patch me through to Earth Defense Command, full priority channel." While her communications officer worked frantically. At his station, Riley studied the approaching fleet. The ships were massive, each one easily 10 times the size of Earth's largest vessels. They moved with perfect precision, maintaining formation across millions of kilometers of space. Whoever these aliens were, they had done this before. The screen flickered, and Admiral Stone's weathered face appeared. Behind him, Riley could see the controlled chaos of Luna Base's command center. "Riley, tell me you have good news." 8,000 hostile ships, sir. They want us off Earth in 3 days or they start shooting." Stone's expression hardened. "Then it's time to show them what we've been building. All stations are moving." To Code Black. "Operation Fortress is now active." Riley had heard whispers about Operation Fortress, but like most people, she assumed it was just contingency planning. The idea that Earth had been secretly militarizing for 3 decades seemed impossible. They were explorers, scientists, peace seekers. But as she watched Stone's face, she realized how naive that thinking had been. "Commander Torres, you need to understand something," Stone said quietly. "Everything the public knows about our space program, about our technology, about our capabilities, has been carefully managed. We learned from those first alien visitors that we were never going to be welcomed into their galaxy as equals. We were going to be prey, so we decided to become predators instead." The implications hit Riley like a physical blow. While the world had celebrated humanity's peaceful expansion into the solar system, their leaders had been preparing for war. Every mining station, every research outpost, every seemingly innocent orbital platform had been designed with hidden purposes. The aliens think they're attacking a primitive species with rockets and nuclear weapons, Stone continued. They have no idea what's waiting for them. As if summoned by his words, the first wave of alien fighters began separating from the main fleet. They moved toward Earth like silver arrows, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Riley counted at least 500 of them, each one probably capable of destroying a city by itself. But as she watched, something extraordinary happened. The space around Earth began to change. What had appeared to be simple communications satellites suddenly unfolded into weapon platforms. The moon's surface cracked open to reveal massive railgun batteries. Even Mars, where Riley's own station orbited, began showing new structures rising from beneath the red dirt. "My God," Lieutenant Brooks whispered. "How long have we been building all this?" 30 years, Stone answered through the comm. "Every day since we learned what the galaxy really thought of us. The aliens are about to discover that humans learn very fast, and we hold grudges for a very long time." The first alien fighters reached Earth's orbit and immediately opened fire. Their weapons carved bright lines through the atmosphere, targeting major cities with precision that spoke of careful intelligence gathering. But instead of the devastation they expected, their beams struck shimmering barriers that absorbed the energy and redirected it harmlessly into space. Riley watched in amazement as Earth defended itself with technology she hadn't known existed. The aliens had indeed attacked first, just as they had threatened. But instead of finding helpless prey, they had awakened something that had been waiting patiently for exactly this moment. The war for humanity's survival had begun, and the aliens were about to learn that some species bite back harder than expected. Earth's cities weren't burning. Instead, they were revealing themselves to be fortresses that had been disguised as peaceful settlements for decades. General Vorth and his hegemony coalition had made a fatal error. They had given humanity exactly what it needed: the moral authority that came from being attacked first. Now, humanity would show them what 3 decades of secret preparation could accomplish when a species decided that extinction was not an acceptable option. The hunters had become the hunted, and they didn't even know it yet. Admiral Stone had not slept in 48 hours, but sleep was a luxury Earth could no longer afford. The alien bombardment had been relentless since the first wave of fighters had been repelled, and now the main hegemony fleet was taking position, around Earth like vultures circling wounded prey. From his command bunker beneath Luna Base, Stone watched the tactical displays with growing concern. The aliens were adapting faster than anticipated. The first day of battle had gone better than anyone dared hope. Earth's hidden defenses had held, the orbital platforms had functioned perfectly, and humanity had shown the galaxy that they weren't the helpless primitives everyone believed. But the hegemony had quickly realized their mistake and changed tactics. Instead of the quick extermination they had planned, they were now settling in for a siege. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Captain Wells aboard the Fury," his communications officer reported. "Put him through," Stone ordered, grateful for any good news. Captain Wells's face appeared on the screen, his ship's bridge visible behind. Him. The Fury was humanity's newest class of destroyer, built in the hidden shipyards of the outer asteroid belt. Unlike the massive vessels favored by most spacefaring species, human ships were built for speed and maneuverability. They had to be, since humanity couldn't match alien firepower directly. "Admiral, we just completed our first engagement with a hegemony patrol," Wells reported, and Stone could hear the excitement in his voice. 3 of their ships, each one twice our size. They didn't expect us to be able to match their speed, and they definitely didn't expect our new fusion drives. We took out 2 of them before they knew what hit them. Stone allowed himself a small smile. The fusion drives had been humanity's greatest breakthrough, developed in secret over the past decade. They allowed human ships to accelerate at rates That would kill most alien species, whose physiology couldn't handle the extreme forces involved. It was humanity's first real advantage in the technological war. "What's the status of their main fleet?" Stone asked. Wells' expression grew more serious. "That's the problem, sir. They're not just sitting there anymore. They're building something. Our long-range scanners show massive construction activity in the asteroid belt near Jupiter. Whatever it is, it's bigger than anything we've seen." Before Stone could respond, alarms began wailing throughout the command center. The main tactical display lit up with red indicators as something emerged from behind Jupiter's bulk. It was a ship, but calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a hill. The vessel was easily 100 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that dwarfed anything in the hegemony fleet. "Dear God," someone whispered. The massive ship began moving toward Earth with ponderous inevitability. Stone realized this was the hegemony's answer to humanity's unexpected resistance. They were bringing out their ultimate weapons, the ships they used to crack planets that refused to surrender. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone," he broadcast on the Fleet Command frequency. "Target designation Alpha 1 is priority for all units. I don't care what it takes, that ship cannot reach Earth." What followed was the largest space battle in human history. Every ship humanity had built, every platform they had hidden, every weapon they had developed in 30 years of secret preparation was thrown against the alien dreadnought. The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire as human vessels swarmed. The massive ship like angry wasps attacking a giant. But the dreadnought's shields were incredible. Nuclear warheads that could vaporize cities barely scratched its defenses. Particle beam arrays that could cut through solid steel seemed to have no effect at all. For the first time since the war began, Stone felt genuine despair. How do you fight something that massive? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Liu, the scientist who had been studying captured alien technology, burst into the command center without clearance or protocol. "Admiral, I know how to stop it," she said breathlessly. "Their shields aren't impenetrable. They're actually a form of controlled electromagnetic field. If we can generate a powerful enough pulse at exactly the right frequency, we can overload their entire defensive grid. Do we have anything that can generate that?" "Kind of pulse?" Stone asked. Liu smiled grimly. "We do now. The railgun platforms around Earth. If we link them together and fire simultaneously, we can create an electromagnetic pulse big enough to knock out every alien ship in the system. But we'll only get one shot. After that, they'll adapt their shields to compensate." Stone didn't hesitate. "Do it!" The next few minutes felt like hours as Liu worked frantically to coordinate the orbital platforms. The alien dreadnought continued its approach, now close enough that its weapons could target Earth's major cities. Stone watched the countdown timer on his screen, knowing that millions of lives hung in the balance of the next few seconds. "Firing in 3, 2, 1, execute!" Every railgun platform around Earth fired simultaneously, not at the alien ships, but at each other, creating a massive electromagnetic web that encompassed the entire planet. The pulse that resulted was unlike anything ever seen in space warfare. It spread outward like a visible shock wave, washing over the hegemony fleet in seconds. The effect was immediate and devastating. Alien ships throughout the system went dark, as their shields collapsed and their power systems overloaded. The massive dreadnought, moments away from firing on Earth, became a drifting hulk, spinning slowly through space. But humanity's victory celebration was cut short as surviving alien ships began broadcasting on emergency frequencies. The messages were in various alien languages, but the tone was unmistakable. They were calling for reinforcements. The hegemony had not expected serious resistance, but now they knew exactly what they were facing. "Captain Wells, what's your ship's status?" Stone asked. "We're operational, Admiral. My crew is tired, but we're ready for whatever comes next." Stone nodded grimly. "Good. Because this was just the first wave. The real war is about to begin." As if to confirm his words, new signals began appearing on the long-range sensors. More ships were coming, many more. The hegemony had decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. They were bringing everything they had, but something had changed in the past few days. Humanity had tasted victory against impossible odds, and they had learned that their enemy could be beaten. The species that had spent centuries exploring space peacefully was discovering that they had a talent for war that surprised even themselves. The aliens had attacked first and drawn first blood, but humanity was just getting started, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you threatened a species that refused to give up. 3 months had passed since the first alien ships appeared in Earth's sky, and Colonel Davis could barely recognize the world he was fighting to protect. From his position in the ruins of what used to be Central Park, he watched human engineers installing another particle cannon array between the skeletal remains of skyscrapers. Every major city on Earth had become a fortress, every park a weapon emplacement, every building a potential bunker. The war had settled into a deadly rhythm. The hegemony held space around Earth, but they had learned the hard way that landing on the planet was suicide. 3 separate invasion attempts had been turned into smoking craters by weapons the aliens hadn't known existed. Humanity had spent 3 decades preparing for this exact scenario, and it showed in every meter of defended ground. Davis adjusted his combat armor and checked his weapon. Unlike the bulky equipment used in Earth's old wars, this gear was built with alien technology that human engineers had captured and improved. The rifle in his hands could punch through alien personal shields, and his armor could stop their energy weapons. It was proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their courage, but their ability to learn and adapt faster than their enemies expected. "Colonel, we have another probe incoming," Sergeant Williams reported through the comm system. "Looks like they're testing our southern perimeter again." Davis smiled grimly. The aliens kept sending small groups to test human defenses, apparently unable to believe that a primitive species could maintain such thorough protection across an entire planet. Each probe taught humanity more about alien tactics and technology, while the aliens learned nothing except that humans were much harder to kill than anticipated. "Let them come," Davis replied. "Our people need the practice." The engagement lasted less than 10 minutes. Alien dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere, expecting to find frightened civilians hiding in ruins. Instead, they found coordinated human forces using weapons specifically designed to counter alien technology. The attackers never made it to the ground, but the real war was happening far from Earth's surface, in the asteroid belt and the outer planets. Captain Wells and his expanding fleet of human ships were learning to hunt alien vessels with terrifying efficiency. The Fury-class destroyers had been joined by new designs that pushed human technology to its limits. The Phantom-class stealth ships could hide from alien sensors completely, striking without warning and disappearing before retaliation was possible. "Admiral Stone, this is Wells reporting from the Jupiter sector," came the transmission from the fleet's newest operational area. "We just completed a raid on their supply depot near Europa. 12 alien freighters destroyed along with their escort vessels. No human casualties." Stone reviewed the tactical data with satisfaction. The supply raids were working exactly as planned. The hegemony had expected a quick victory, followed by easy resource extraction. Instead, they were burning through supplies at an unsustainable rate while accomplishing nothing. Their member species were starting to question the wisdom of this war. That questioning was being carefully encouraged by humanity's newest weapon, information warfare. A mysterious figure known only as Ghost had appeared in the early days of the conflict, somehow gaining access to alien communication networks. Ghost's team of hackers and propaganda specialists were systematically undermining hegemony morale and unity. "Admiral, you need to see this," Dr. Liu said, entering the command Center with a tablet displaying alien communications intercepts. Ghost just sent us recordings from the Hegemony High Command. They're arguing among themselves. 3 of their member species want to withdraw from the conflict. Stone studied the translated documents. The Vrex Confederacy was complaining about supply costs. The Thalos Republic was questioning whether humanity was worth the casualties they were taking. Most importantly, the Hegemony's member species were starting to blame each other for the intelligence failures that had led to this disaster. "How accurate is this intelligence?" Stone asked. "Ghost has been right about everything so far," Liu replied. "If these documents are genuine, the Hegemony is fracturing. They expected to defeat us in weeks, not months. The longer this goes on, the more their alliance falls apart." As if summoned by their conversation, a priority message arrived from Ghost. The communication was encrypted with codes that should have been impossible for any human to crack, yet somehow Ghost had not only broken alien encryption, but improved it beyond their ability to decode. "Admiral Stone," the synthesized voice began, "I'm sending you detailed plans for the Hegemony's next offensive. They're planning to demonstrate their power by destroying Luna Base. The attack comes in 6 days. But I have a better idea. What if we let them try and then show them what happens when you threaten human civilians?" Stone felt a chill run down his spine. Luna Base housed over 50,000 people, including researchers, miners, and their families. The idea of using them as bait was horrifying, but the strategic implications were impossible to ignore. "What exactly are you proposing?" Stone asked. "The Hegemony is bringing their newest weapon," Ghost replied. "A mooncracker missile that can destabilize a planetary body's core. They think it will break humanity's will to fight. But what if the missile never reaches its target? What if it gets turned around and sent back to their fleet instead?" The plan that followed was audacious beyond belief. Using captured alien technology and human engineering improvements, Ghost's team had developed a way to reverse the polarity of the Hegemony's own weapons. The mooncracker missile could be intercepted, modified, and redirected in real time. Instead of destroying Luna Base, it would tear apart the alien fleet that fired it. "The risks are enormous," Stone said. "If we miscalculate, we lose Luna Base and everyone on it." "Admiral," Ghost replied, "they're planning to destroy it anyway. This way, we turn their own weapon against them and send a message to every alien species in the galaxy. Humanity doesn't just defend itself. When threatened, humanity strikes back." Stone made the decision that would define humanity's future. Do it. But I want every civilian evacuated from Luna Base first. No one dies for this demonstration except the aliens who started this war. The evacuation took 4 days, disguised as routine personnel rotations. When the Hegemony fleet moved into position to fire their ultimate weapon, they found Luna Base apparently functioning normally. They had no idea that the installations they were targeting were now automated weapons platforms operated remotely from Earth. The mooncracker missile launched exactly as Ghost had predicted. It was a weapon designed to crack open planetary bodies, releasing enough energy to sterilize entire solar systems. As it approached Luna Base, human technology activated. The missile's guidance system was overridden, its target designation changed, and its warhead reprogrammed. Instead of striking Luna Base, the mooncracker turned around and headed back toward the Hegemony fleet. The alien ships had barely begun to realize what was happening when their own weapon detonated among them. The explosion was visible from Earth, a new star that burned for 3 minutes before fading away. In those 3 minutes, the Hegemony lost over half of their remaining fleet and their most powerful weapon. But more importantly, they learned that humanity was no longer just defending. They were attacking, and they were using alien technology better than the aliens themselves. The war had entered a new phase, and the galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the prey evolves into the predator. Major Torres had never expected to be standing on the surface of an alien world, but 6 months of war had changed many things that once seemed impossible. The planet beneath her boots was called Kelros Prime by its inhabitants, a trading hub that served dozens of hegemony species. Today, it would become the first alien world to fall to human forces. The invasion fleet that surrounded Kelros Prime was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships no longer tried to match alien designs. Instead, they had evolved into something uniquely human, fast, aggressive, and absolutely lethal. The Death's Head-class assault ships were covered in angular armor that deflected energy weapons, while their own guns fired projectiles at relativistic speeds. They looked like mechanical predators, and they hunted with the same efficiency. Major. "Torres, this is Admiral Stone," came the transmission from the fleet flagship. "You are authorized to proceed with Operation Payback. Show them what happens when you attack Earth." Torres smiled behind her helmet's visor. Operation Payback was humanity's answer to 6 months of bombardment and attempted genocide. The hegemony had tried to exterminate humanity so humanity would dismantle the hegemony piece by piece, but they would do it the human way, efficiently, completely, and with a message that would echo across the galaxy. The planetary assault began with a demonstration of human technological superiority. Instead of the massive bombardment favored by most species, human ships deployed their newest weapons, reality anchors that created localized fields where alien technology simply stopped working. Hegemony defense platforms went silent. Their shields collapsed, and their weapons became useless metal sculptures orbiting a defenseless world. Kelros Planetary Defense Command. "This is Major Torres of the Earth Liberation Fleet," she broadcast on all frequencies. "Your military installations have been neutralized. Your orbital defenses are offline. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally, or we will demonstrate why attacking Earth was the worst mistake your species ever made." The response came not from the planet, but from a hegemony admiral whose ship was trapped in orbit along with the rest of the defense fleet. "Human, you are in violation of galactic law. This is a civilian population center. Your species claims to follow rules of civilized warfare." Torres felt a cold anger settle in her chest. "Admiral, your forces have spent 6 months trying to exterminate every human in existence. You have targeted our cities, our children, our hospitals. You declared us vermin to be eliminated. Today you learned the difference between extermination and conquest." What followed was a masterclass in human military precision. Instead of killing civilians, human forces targeted only military installations, government buildings, and infrastructure. But they did it with such overwhelming efficiency that the planet's entire command structure collapsed in hours. Every military base was turned into scrap metal. Every government facility was reduced to its component atoms. Every symbol of hegemony, authority, was systematically erased. But the most devastating attack wasn't physical. Ghost and the Information Warfare Division had been busy during the assault. They had cracked every computer system on the planet, and now they began broadcasting the truth to Kelros Prime's population. Recordings of hegemony leaders discussing the human vermin problem, plans for using Kelros Prime's population as forced labor after the war, evidence that the planet's own government had volunteered their people as cannon fodder for the invasion of Earth. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Riots broke out in major cities as the population turned against their own leaders. 3 separate species declared independence from the hegemony within hours. The planet that had been a symbol of unity became a symbol of rebellion against the alliance that had started this war. "Major Torres, we're receiving surrender communications from 17 different factions," her communications officer reported. "They're all asking for the same thing: protection from hegemony, retaliation, and inclusion in human-controlled space." Torres nodded grimly. This was exactly what Admiral Stone had predicted. The hegemony's member species were discovering that their leaders had dragged them into a war they couldn't win against an enemy they didn't understand. Now they wanted protection from the very species they had tried to exterminate. Tell them. We'll accept their surrender, but they need to understand our terms, Torres replied. Earth doesn't conquer. Earth liberates. Any species that joins us gets protection, but they also get human law. That means no slavery, no genocide, no wars of extermination. Break those rules, and you'll learn why the hegemony is losing this war. The capture of Kelros Prime sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Within days, 3 more hegemony worlds requested human protection. The alliance that had seemed unbreakable 6 months ago was falling apart as its member species realized they were on the losing side of a war their leaders had assured them would be easy. But the hegemony's core leadership wasn't ready to give up. General Vorth, the Kreth commander who had started the war, issued a new ultimatum from his flagship. If humanity didn't withdraw from all captured territories within 48 hours, the hegemony would begin executing human prisoners. The threat was broadcast across all occupied human settlements and aimed at breaking human morale. Instead, it had the opposite effect. Ghost's network intercepted the transmission and added their own message. A complete list of every hegemony war crime committed during the invasion, along with evidence that Vorth himself had ordered the execution of surrendering human civilians. Admiral Stone, Torres reported from the surface of Kelros Prime, the local population is requesting permission to try Vorth for crimes against sapient life. Apparently, he's committed similar atrocities against their people too. Stone's response was swift and decisive. Permission granted, but tell them they'll have to catch him first. I have plans for General Vorth. The hunt for Vorth became humanity's next objective, but it was more than just military strategy. It was psychological warfare on a galactic scale. Every day that the Kreth general remained free, Ghost's network broadcast more evidence of his crimes, not just against humans, but against dozens of species over centuries of hegemony expansion. The galaxy was learning that the hegemony's civilizing mission had been built on genocide, slavery, and systematic oppression. Species that had been forced into the alliance decades ago began declaring independence. Worlds that had provided resources for the war effort suddenly found themselves under new management. Captain Wells, now commanding a fleet of 50 human ships, reported the most significant development yet. Admiral, we just received a transmission from the Alteran Republic. They're offering to join humanity's alliance and provide intelligence on hegemony fleet movements. They say they have information about something called the Final Protocol. Stone felt his blood turn cold. Intelligence reports had mentioned the Final Protocol, but no one had been able to determine what it meant. If the Alterans had information, it could be the key to ending the war. What do they want in return? Stone asked. Protection from hegemony retaliation and a guarantee that humans won't abandon them after the war ends, Wells replied. They've seen what we did to Kelros Prime. They want to be on the winning side. Stone made the decision that would reshape the galaxy's political structure. Accept their offer, but make it clear that joining humanity's alliance means accepting human values. No genocide, no slavery, no wars of conquest. We're not building an empire. We're building something better. The war was changing from a fight for survival into something larger. Humanity wasn't just defeating the hegemony. They were offering the galaxy an alternative to centuries of authoritarian rule. The species that had attacked first was learning that some prey grows into something far more dangerous than predators. The hunter had indeed become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. Ambassador White had never imagined that her first appearance before the Galactic Council would be as the representative of a species accused of being terrorists and war criminals. The massive station that housed the Council was a marvel of engineering, built by dozens of species working together over centuries. Today, it would witness the trial that would determine the future of galactic civilization. The council chamber was filled with representatives from over 200 species, many of whom had never heard of humanity until 6 months ago. Now they were being asked to judge whether humans were the bloodthirsty monsters described by hegemony propaganda or the defenders that surviving evidence suggested. The Council recognizes Ambassador White of the Terran Federation, announced. The Council President, a crystalline being whose voice rang like musical chimes. You stand accused of unprovoked aggression against the Hegemony Coalition, violation of civilized warfare protocols, and conspiracy to destabilize galactic peace. How do you answer these charges? White stood slowly, her simple Earth-style clothing, contrasting sharply with the elaborate robes and technological augmentations worn by other representatives. She had insisted on appearing exactly as she was, human, unaugmented, and proud of it. Honored Council, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. I reject these charges completely. Humanity did not start this war. We did not choose this conflict. We simply refused to die quietly when the hegemony decided our species should be exterminated. The hegemony representative, a tall reptilian Kreth, rose from his seat. The human speaks lies. Their species was offered peaceful relocation. They chose violence instead of compliance. White smiled coldly. Ghost, if you would please present evidence package 1. The chamber's displays lit up with recordings that made several council members gasp in shock. General Vorth's voice filled the room, speaking to his subordinates about the human infestation that needed to be cleansed completely. Video showed hegemony ships targeting civilian evacuation vessels. Communications revealed plans to use human survivors as slave labor in mining operations. This is fabricated propaganda, the Kreth representative protested, but his voice lacked conviction. These recordings were obtained from hegemony ships captured during the war, White replied calmly. Your own military communications, stored in your own databases, using your own encryption. Unless you're claiming your species fabricated evidence against itself, these recordings prove that humanity was marked for genocide from the beginning. The council chamber erupted in heated discussion as representatives reviewed the evidence. Many species had suffered under hegemony expansion over the centuries, but none had seen such clear documentation of planned extermination. The council recognizes that irregularities may have occurred, the president announced after several minutes of debate. However, this does not excuse the humans' excessive response. The destruction of military installations is acceptable, but your species has systematically dismantled hegemony infrastructure across dozens of worlds. White nodded. We have, and we're proud of it. The blunt admission caused another uproar. Several representatives began speaking at once, demanding explanations and justifications. White waited for quiet before continuing. Every installation we destroyed was involved in the invasion of Earth or the planned genocide of humanity. Every government facility we targeted was complicit in war crimes. Every military base we eliminated was being used to coordinate attacks on civilian populations. We didn't destroy them because we're conquerors. We destroyed them because they were tools of oppression, and we're done being oppressed. A new voice entered the debate as Admiral Stone appeared on the chamber's main screen. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship showed the disciplined efficiency that had made human ships feared throughout the galaxy. Honored Council, Stone said, humanity requests permission to present our final evidence. The chamber fell silent as new displays activated. These showed something unprecedented in galactic history, the complete battle logs of the war from both human and hegemony perspectives. Every engagement, every decision, every tactical choice was laid bare for the Council to examine. What you are seeing, Stone explained, is the complete record of a war we did not want, against an enemy that gave us no choice. At every stage, humanity offered terms for peace. We offered prisoner exchanges, civilian evacuations, and negotiated surrenders. The hegemony response was always the same: complete extermination or nothing. The evidence was overwhelming. Recorded communications showed human commanders repeatedly attempting to minimize civilian casualties, while hegemony forces targeted civilian populations deliberately. Human forces had rebuilt infrastructure on captured worlds, while hegemony forces had strip-mined planets to bare rock. The contrast was undeniable. But perhaps most importantly, White continued, we need to address what happens next. The hegemony claims we are conquerors who threaten galactic peace. Let me show you what human conquest actually looks like. The displays changed to show recent footage from liberated worlds. Instead of the devastation typically left by conquering armies, the images showed reconstruction efforts, medical aid, and educational programs. Species that had been enslaved for generations were learning to govern themselves. Worlds that had been strip-mined were being restored to habitability. This is humanity's final answer to those who would commit genocide, White declared. We don't just defeat our enemies, we make them into allies. We don't just win wars, we build better worlds. The Kreth representative made one last desperate attempt. They lie! Humans are brutal, primitive, violent! General Vorth's voice cut through the chamber as he appeared in shackles on the display screen. The Kreth commander who had started the war was now a prisoner aboard a human ship, awaiting trial for war crimes. I have spent the past month in human custody, Vorth said, his voice heavy with defeat. I have been treated according to their laws, given medical care, allowed to communicate with my family. They have shown me more mercy than I showed their civilians. The humans are not what we told you they were. They are not what we believed them to be. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Here was the architect of humanity's attempted genocide, admitting that his captors had treated him better than he had treated their people. White let the weight of that admission settle before speaking again. General Vorth will stand trial for his crimes, but he will receive a fair trial according to law. His subordinates who committed war crimes will face justice, but those who surrendered honorably have been treated with dignity. This is the difference between humanity and the system that tried to destroy us. The council president's crystalline form shifted colors as he processed the implications. Ambassador White, what does humanity propose for the future? If the council accepts your evidence and rules in your favor, what then? We propose a new order, White replied. Not human dominance, but human principles. No more wars of extermination. No more slavery disguised as civilization. No more forcing species to choose between submission and destruction. The galaxy has been ruled by fear for too long. It's time to try something else. A small, furry delegate from the Vaxi Republic raised a trembling paw. But humans have proven they can destroy anyone who opposes them. How do we know you won't become the new oppressors? White's expression softened. Because we've had the power to destroy the hegemony completely for months now, and we chose not to. We've captured dozens of worlds, and instead of enslaving their populations, we've given them freedom. We've defeated fleets that outnumbered us 10-1, and we've offered mercy to our enemies. Judge us by our actions, not our capabilities. Admiral Stone's image shifted on the screen. Honored Council, humanity is prepared to accept certain restrictions on our military expansion in exchange for guarantees that no species will face the genocide we survived. We propose the establishment of an interspecies protection treaty enforced by joint fleets from volunteer species. The implications were staggering. Humanity, having proven they could defeat anyone in the galaxy, was voluntarily limiting their own power in exchange for protections for weaker species. It was unprecedented in galactic history. The debate that followed lasted 6 hours. Representatives argued, questioned, and examined every piece of evidence from multiple perspectives. Species that had suffered under hegemony rule spoke passionately about the liberation they had witnessed. Former hegemony allies admitted they had been forced into the coalition through threats and coercion. Finally, the council president called for order. The council has reached a decision. After reviewing all evidence presented, we find that humanity acted in legitimate self-defense against an attempted genocide. The charges against the Terran Federation are dismissed. The chamber erupted in cheers from some delegates and angry protests from others. But the president continued speaking. Furthermore, the Council hereby dissolves the Hegemony Coalition for crimes against sapient life and violations of civilized conduct. Member species are free to form new alliances or remain independent as they choose. White felt a weight lift from her shoulders that she hadn't realized she was carrying. The war was over, truly over. But more than that, humanity had achieved something remarkable. They had fought a war for survival and emerged not as conquerors, but as liberators. The Council recognizes the Terran Federation's proposal for an interspecies protection treaty, the President announced. Negotiations will begin immediately to establish enforcement mechanisms and voluntary participation protocols. As the session ended and delegates began filing out, White found herself approached by dozens of representatives. Some wanted to join humanity's alliance. Others sought trade agreements or cultural exchanges. Many simply wanted to understand how a species could emerge from near extinction to become galactic peacekeepers in less than a year. Later, aboard Admiral Stone's flagship, the human leadership gathered to discuss their victory. The war that had begun with alien ships demanding humanity's extinction had ended with humanity reshaping galactic civilization. "So what happens now?" Captain Wells asked. "We've won the war, we've got our justice, and half the galaxy wants to be our ally. What's the next step?" White smiled, looking out at the stars through the bridge's viewports. "Now we prove that our final answer wasn't just about winning a war. We proved that humans can build something better than what we destroyed. The aliens attacked first, but our final say isn't conquest or revenge, it's hope." Stone nodded in agreement. The galaxy spent centuries believing that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak. We've shown them something different. We've shown them that the strong should protect the weak. General Vorth's words echoed in the silence that followed. The humans were not what anyone had believed them to be. They were something new in a galaxy that had forgotten that species could evolve beyond their nature. The war was over, but humanity's real work was just beginning. They had the power to rule the galaxy, but they chose instead to serve it. That choice would echo through the stars for generations to come, proving that sometimes the greatest victory is knowing when not to use the power you've earned. The aliens had indeed attacked first, but humanity's final say would be written not in the ashes of their enemies, but in the better worlds they would build together.